We're going to go over some top 8 Pro Tour Final Fantasy stuff, a couple opinions I might have, and once again, the absolutely ridiculous prices that the Final Fantasy packs and stuff are going for. But first, the lovely, lovely intro. My name is Dom Douglas, and I've been playing Magic the Gathering for what seems like forever. But in fact, it's only been on and off for about 30 years. With that comes an expectation that I'm the best player ever. You couldn't be any more wrong in that statement. What I do like, however, is having a lot of fun. Whether it be playing Limited, Draft, Commander, Standard when I get the chance, Arena, Magic the Gathering Online, it doesn't matter as long as a good time is had. And with that, I have some opinions, not just of Magic the Gathering, but also video games, comics, maybe even a TV show or two. This is the Goblin Grenade Podcast. That's right, everybody. We're going to mishmash a whole bunch of topics. We're going to end with my thoughts on the Pro Tour stuff and the fallout of it. But first, I need to say the absolute carnage on these prices right now. Officially, sadly, it's a mix between this set being Hot Fire, okay? Final Fantasy is a really good set. It's a really good set. I'm forgetting the name of what we call these. The scalpers have definitely invaded. It's officially at this point. I don't mind people who flip, okay? Who invest and whatnot. I don't mind it. But now everybody's doing it. So it's a part and parcel type of thing with it, and it's not just the collector boosters, because those are spiked. It's just kind of like how the Magic Lord of the Rings set was spiked because of the serialized cards in there, and the 77 chocobos. I think like 10 or so have been found already to my knowledge. Those cards will continue to spike. These packs will continue to be $100 a pack for 15 cards. Okay, $100. It's too rich for a lot of people's blood out there. And you see a lot of people opening these packs online and whatnot. Sometimes they're ambassadors, sometimes they're not, sometimes they actually do invest. But it gives you this false sense of you can do it. You can buy a pack. You can buy a case. You can buy a box. Right now, collector boosters. A box of collector boosters, which is 12 packs of Magic the Gathering cards. If you wanted to buy it off any particular website that you were feeling, it's going to set you back about $1,200. These packs are going for about $100 a pack right now. The Japanese versions are a little less at $780 a pack, a collector booster box. Even people are buying the Omega packs that you find, like the ones in the single pack in a box that you find at Walmart and Target and whatnot, and they're buying them and selling them online. So the demand is there. Unfortunately, pre-release packs are $80 right now. That's for 6 packs of cards, folks, and a promo. 6 packs of cards. The bundle isn't even listed. There's no bundles anymore, I guess. Oh no, here we are. Gift bundle, which is coming out. Let me click on the link real quick, because the gift bundles come out in a couple days. In a couple days, they are now $300. Yep, out of my price range. Won't be able to get one of those. Regular bundles are going for bundle case. I think there's 6 in a bundle. They're going for about 100 still. Yeah, they're going for about 100 bundles. Booster boxes, 6 in there. It's going for over 200 still, almost. Starter kits are going for $30. That's about the only thing I was able to find on brand. So basically, a lot of the price, even the regular packs of these cards, and we knew it was going to be more expensive. Wizards warned us that it was going to be more expensive. Unfortunately, it's way more expensive than any of us could have anticipated. And I think it's the serialized numbers, the serialized chocobos and scalpers invading Magic the Gathering finally. I'm glad I'm checking out of the Spider-Man set. I refuse to buy anything on the Spider-Man set. Not even out of principle, not even out of weird thing. I'll buy singles. I might do a pre-release, but I'm not going to buy a bundle because I'm not a fan of Spider-Man. Final Fantasy is my jam. And it's my slow jam, if you will. And I've only been able to secure a pre-release. Pre-release that I got to play two games in before I had to leave, a bundle which was 9 packs, and the Final Fantasy X Commander deck. That's it. I don't know if I'll get a bundle. I'm definitely not getting a collector booster at all. I'm not getting a gift bundle, and I love those gift bundles, but unfortunately they're $300 right now, and I'm not paying that much for 9 packs of cards, 10 with the collector booster. So we've got some issues at hand. Maybe I'll get a booster box and crack that. And I know some stores are having an impossible time finding Final Fantasy, to the point that they better reprint they better make another printing real quick, or we're going to have issues, or this might really become the most expensive Magic the Gathering set to buy ever. And it's already almost up there. But we will see what happens. And the funny part is, we'll shop singles. Unfortunately, high to low is going to be really weird and proliferated with a bunch of the stuff that you can only get in collector boosters. Well, except for Vivi. Vivi's like $80 right now. The regular base version of Vivi's like $50 right now. The borderless is like $80. That's just the regular versions. Is it a fun set? Yes, it is. I've been playing a lot of it on Arena, but I'm not going to be buying a lot of it. You know, it's just not feasible for me. I can't. And now the second topic is the Pro Tour, and this is the bulk of the episode, more than likely. Pro Tour, Final Fantasy happened, and I got the rare opportunity to watch an entire Pro Tour. I watched some on Friday, had a show, watched some on Saturday, and then watched some on Sunday, and I got to watch basically more Pro Tour than I've gotten to see since before I became affiliated with professional wrestling. And it was fun. The Wizards coverage has gotten better over the years. It better have. It's been about 6 years since the last one I saw. And I appreciate how in-depth they got. They got some of the best people to do it. Coverage team was awesome. Always good seeing Cedric. Always good seeing Marshall from Limited Resources. Colin. Casting, if you will. Maria, Alias V, Baumheiser. They got a lot of good people, okay, to do commentary, play-by-play analysis. Everything was great. Some of the decks in the top 8, actually only the 2 decks in the top 8 weren't so great. We will get into that right now. So out of the top 8, there was 2 decks that made it the top 8. That's it. Out of all 8 players, they were playing one of 2 decks: Mono Red Aggro and Is It Prowess. As I collide into everything here. So let's go over that real quick. All right, so eventual winner Ken Yukihiro, which was phenomenal. His story was great. I want to click over. Go down to the top 8 where they Magic the Gathering introduced. Not my favorite story, Ken Yukihiro, but second favorite story. He has made top 8 8 times. Never won once. Okay? He's never taken home an event in Pro Tour. He's made 8 top 8 Pro Tours. Never won. This time, he finally wins on his 8th try. Great story. Great person. Raw emotion when he won. My favorite story, however, was David Rude, okay, in the top 8. He was playing Is It Paralysis. Ken Yukihiro was playing Mono Red Aggro. David Rude, okay, check this out. On their list, on their little preview, blurb, experience is the best teacher is a maxim that holds true in many things, and Magic the Gathering is among them. 20 years ago, David Rude won a Team Pro Tour in Atlanta alongside Gabriel Nassif and Gabriel Sasang. That was following his 2002 Team Pro Tour loss against the Indomitable Phoenix Foundation, which at that time was composed of Kai Bood, who was a Hall of Famer, along with, I think, Nassif, and Dirk Baberwiski and Marco Bloom. Luminaries, okay, top of the line players. 20 years later, he's in the top 8 for Final Fantasy. He earned his qualification, okay, with a great finish in the Canadian Regional Championship, and then just skyrocketed into the top 8 Pro Tour. Fun story, 20 years gap. He even joked, maybe in 2045 I'll come back again. Top 8 another Pro Tour. But that was my favorite story. So now that we got my favorite stories out of the line, my favorite story was David Rude, but Ken Yukihiro had the more emotional story because this man has basically been a bridesmaid and never a bride 7 times before this one. And on the 8th one, he's top 8'd 8 times, got into that final bracket tournament, and then finally was able to take it down. And just that raw emotion, as I said earlier, that he showed it was pure. It was great. The deck he played was Mono Red Aggro. 4 copies of Heartfire Hero, 4 Higher Claw, 4 Emberheart Challengers, 3 Magebane Lizards, 4 Manifold Mouse, 4 Screaming Nemesises, a Teresa Light Shatter, and 4 copies of Twin Maw Stormbrood, which in Mono Red Aggro, you will not play that creature because it's a white dragon, but it does have an adventure. It's got an omen on there. It deals 5 damage to target creature without flying. Now, the omens are different than adventures where they get shuffled back into the library. So if you're only using it as an omen, you will always have that chance to get another one out. They're playing 4 copies of Burst Lightning, 4 Monstrous Rage, a Lightning Strike, a Self-Destruct, 16 Mountains, 4 Rock Face Villages, and 2 Soulstone Sanctuaries. Sideboards was a Lithomatic Barrage, 2 Soul Guide Lanterns, 3 Torch to Towers, a Magebane Lizard, 2 Suplexes, 2 Case of the Crimson Pulse, and 3 copies of Sunspine Lynx. Basically, there's very few differences in Red Aggro. To Yuchin Liu, who was 4th place in Mono Red Aggro, instead of playing Lightning Strike and Self-Destructs and Burst Lightnings, a full complement of Burst Lightnings, they were playing Opera Love Songs and 3 copies of Witchstalker Frenzy. So that was their way to deal with the meta, and the meta being Is It Paralysis? And then the other mono red decks were basically carbon copies. The Is It Paralysis deck, though, which wound up being in 2nd place by Ian Robb. Mind you, back-to-back top 8s for Ian Robb as well. The Is It Paralysis deck had a little bit more flexibility, I felt, than the Mono Red Aggro. Because Is It Paralysis was either playing Drake Hatchers or Monastery Swiftspears. Some number of VVs from Final Fantasy, and then basically, 4 copies of Corey Steelcutter, 4 copies of Stormseeker Talent, Sleight of Hands, Stock Ups, Wild Rides, Into the Flood Malls, Monstrous Rages. The 4th place from Tony Portolan was playing Swift Spears instead of the Drakes. 3 copies of Vivi instead, but went more into the Wild Ride Quarry Steel Cutter to activate Vivi as soon as possible. So yeah, some of the Izzet decks were playing this town isn't big enough in the main. Some were playing it in the side. All the Izzet Prowess decks had either Drake Hatchers in the main or in the side, because Drake Hatcher is a good sideboard card, I think, for something or another. I think it was like for the mirror or because it's just it dumps out more Drakes when you deal damage. The issue, though, is theoretically speaking, in the top 8, all 8 decks were playing red. All 8 decks were playing some number between 3 and 4 copies of Monstrous Rage and Quarry Steel Cutter. And, the Izzet Prowesses were playing Quarry Steel Cutter. So, is it diverse? It was, but, at this point, the cream of the crop has risen to the top. My least favorite comments are like, there's no creativity in the top 8. Look, you can be creative in Magic the Gathering, but once you start playing for higher stakes than FNM, your creative deck is going to go 0-3 drop real quick. And it's called the Pro Tour, not the Bestoke Dex Brews Tour, okay? There will be the meta. There will be your tier 1s, your tier 2s, and your tier 3s. And if you're not playing any of those tiers, you have no shot at even winning a game. Because once you get to that specific level, it's all about maximizing your wins. Now, do not blame the players for this. Instead, blame Wizards. And it's not for what you think. And it's definitely not going to be because they expanded Standard. That's not the reason I'm giving, because the shift to extending rotation has gone somewhat well, I feel. The Izzet decks would still be bad under the old way because Quarry Steel Cutter and Monstrous Rage would still be in Standard. The Azorius Omniscience decks, which Omniscience was 23% of the field, I might add. Don't let that number slide. Azorius Omniscience is a close third between Mono Red Aggro and Izzet Prowess, okay? It almost took down last Pro Tour and has been a monster since its creation. But it wouldn't look, but with the old ways of rotation, it wouldn't look nearly as good because it would have lost Temporary Lockdown, Fajili, Archaeologist, and Scroll Shift already. Okay, 4-color Zur, which is one of the other, which used to be heavily played, but now is only like 5% of the field, wouldn't even exist at this point. The top played decks, though, were different. There is a lot of diversity in it. Just unfortunately, Mono Red Aggro and Izzet Prowess have taken control of the field. We had Golgari Roots. We also had an offshoot of that in Jund Roots. Domain Overlords was still rocking with, I think, like 3.5% of the field. Azorius Omniscience, as I said, 20% of the field. Boros Aggro, and even Orzhov Pixie decks, okay, snuck into the fact that, I think 2% of the field were playing Orzhov Pixie decks. That's 7-ish top-tier decks in the meta. 1, 2, 3, 4, like 8. But 2 of them are above and beyond the other 6. So what cards are the problem in Standard right now is the question that everybody's asking. I just saw a video that Jim Davis did maybe a couple hours ago as of today, because this is Tuesday, the 24th of June, and he made a bold claim that Manifold Mouse and Quarry Steel Cutter should be banned in Standard. Everyone's like, knee-jerk reaction is Monstrous Rage. He also said if those 2 get banned, Omniscience should be banned. You can't ban Temporary Lockdown because it's almost about to rotate out in a couple months. Like when Edge of Eternities come out, Temporary Lockdown is it makes Azorius Omniscience decks cook a little bit better and gives it a little bit more viability. But and it's be stupid to ban it right now anyway. It's going to be, rotating out in like 3 months. So Jim Davis did say just ban Omniscience outright. If we're going to ban Manifold Mouse, which leads to the bad blocking issues, which leads to more damage other than Monstrous Rage, that's how you nerf and cut out the mono red decks that are playing Manifold Mouse. And it does work on the Izzet Prowess decks a little bit, but Quarry Steel Cutter takes out your Izzet Prowess to the point that Izzet Prowess probably won't look anywhere near the same. But you have to cut something as well from Omniscience, because if you don't, Omniscience is going to immediately take the hold again, or even Domain Overlords in the last 3 months. But Omniscience is the bigger problem because that was printed in Foundations, and Omniscience is legal for the next 5 years. So, and as I already said, it's a push-pull when it comes to bans. Early aggro decks do come out and sweep in the early moments in this literally Pro Tour Final Fantasy. The set came out a week or two beforehand. But usually mid-range and control decks will figure it out. But I think because Quarry Steel Cutter just gives you such a board very quickly for every time you cast your second spell on a turn, you can recover very quickly as long as Quarry Steel Cutters are still on the field. And Pro Tour Chicago, remember, last Pro Tour, it was Domain Overlords and Omniscience stealing the show, okay? This time, it just happens to be Izzet Prowess, mono red aggro, but we all kind of knew this problem was going to happen because Quarry Steel and Monstrous Rage are in the same set. Vivi makes it a little worse, especially that last line of his text with dealing a damage. So, what cards are in problem in Standard right now? Here is my opinion. Monstrous Rage, Quarry Steel Cutter, Scroll Shift, Stock Up, Unstoppable Slasher, Hopeless Nightmare, Temporary Lockdown, Up the Beanstalk, Insidious Roots, and Vivi. That hits a lot of decks besides Izzet Prowess and Mono Red Aggro, although taking a look at that list, not all of those are going to get banned. Roots will kill 2 decks, and it's not that bad of a problem, okay? Up the Beanstalk is a problem for Domain Overlords, but as I said, half of Domain Overlords is getting rotated out in 3 months, okay? Temporary Lockdown, also, that card itself is getting rotated out in a couple of months. Hopeless Nightmare is the discard deck with dealing 2 damage that you see in almost every black deck that is drowning now in hand discard, but it makes it cook. Unstoppable Slasher, that's a personal opinion of mine. I think the card is BS, and I don't think it ever should have been printed. Stock Up also could be on the chopping block here, unfortunately, paying for the sins of Quarry Steel Cutter, because normally this card wouldn't even be looked at, okay? Stock Up is 2 and a blue to look at the top 5 cards of your library and put 2 of them in your hand. But right now this is a detriment to increasing rotation length. Blue has such a influx, an overflow of draw and cards to fill the hand back up that it's kind of like drowning in riches, if you will. Scroll Shift, that also gets rotated out, I think, in a couple months. Quarry Steel Cutter, I don't think gets banned, per se, because it just came out in the last set in Dragonstorm. Monstrous Rage has already been for a while now. I can see that getting cut out. I can see Monstrous Rage getting banned. If they do that, and Quarry Steel and or Manifold Mouse, they have to ban something from Omniscience. And I think the only card that you can ban from Omniscience is basically nuking Omniscience. That's the only thing I can think, because Scroll Shift and Temporary Lockdown, they go bye-bye in 2 months. Maybe not Scroll Shift, I think, but Temporary Lockdown, at least you don't get that bounce effect from Temporary Lockdown and just bouncing it back to the field to redo Temporary Lockdown again. You actually have to use the 4, 5, and 6 drop removal spells now. But also, you got to be careful with it. As I said, you do not want to make Omniscience or Domain Overlords a new problem, even though Domain Overlords goes bye-bye in a couple months. But Omniscience would still stand tall. And with them only doing emergency bans other than the once-a-year bans, I think they ban a handful of cards. I think the logical explanations would be, you can make an argument for Quarry Steel Cutter getting banned, Monstrous Rage, Stock Up, Omniscience. Those are the 4 that I think get banned. But then you have to hit up the Beanstalk too to prevent Overlords from being the new threat. Even though Domain itself is rotating out in a few months, so it's not as easy and cut and dry as a lot of us thought it would be. Shockingly, I think that's about it for me. Basically, I've already talked about, and I've already been saying it, like, I know I cry too much about the price of the Final Fantasy stuff. Look, I want to buy a box. I wanted to buy a collector booster box, but that's not going to happen anymore. I want to get a gift bundle. That's not going to happen. But now I'm looking like it might just be I'll accidentally find some at MSRP at like Walmart, or I'll just buy a booster box from a card store next month and just crack it and see what happens. And I'd be okay with that. I already got the commander deck I wanted. All right, so I don't need all the other commander decks. And we hit Pro Tour. And as I said, like, Ken Yukihiro, definitely had the vibes. Definitely had the raw emotion. Wore a Final Fantasy shirt the whole Pro Tour too. Big shout out, big ups to him. And the Pro Tour as well. It was the first 2 days was 3 rounds of draft and then 5 of like standard, and then 3 rounds of draft day 2 and then 5 rounds of standard. Some of the drafting was insane. It was intense. Like some of the drafts. One man in day 2 drafted mono black, which could only happen if a certain set of circumstances happened. And for this person, it did. He got the Sephiroth. He got like a Sir Conrad passed to him. He got like another big signpost mono black card and made that choice right then and there. Mono black was going to be his thing. And normally in this type of draft environment, you want to be 2-3 colors, main 2, splash like maybe 1 or 2 of the other third color, just to like round everything out. But sometimes you get lucky and you can go mono black because it has perfect amount of removal. You've got Sephiroth in the deck. You've got the rare a weird chance to get like a one of the bonus sheet cards, which is Sir Conrad, which makes those mono black decks cook. And it's just lined up perfectly. But that being said, I still want a VV for my Niv Mizzet deck, not for Commander. I don't want to play it as a Commander. I feel it wouldn't be good. It would be Public Enemy #1 as a Commander. But I'm making a Emperor of Palmacia deck right now. Saw a channel that made it. I don't like. I like their take on it, but I don't want to do that because that's not my playstyle. They only play like 2 creatures, and it basically just mills your deck into the graveyard, and then you play that Emperor and just kill everybody on turn 5 or 4 or 7. I don't like doing that when it comes to Commander, so I want to see if I can build like a real budget brew, and by budget I mean basically using all the cards. Whoop. And basically just using all the cards that are right here. My collection of Magic cards right there. So on that front, I know there's a lot of draft videos that I've been doing that are going to come out. Yeah, those are going to be interesting. I'm not the best drafter. It's my favorite format right now next to Commander. But there's some weird things happen, man. Especially when you don't pick a lane fast enough. But that being said, my name is Dom Douglas here for Max Heroes and Villains. And if you watch to the end, thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, leave a comment down below. We can talk about some things. On that front, though, make your top deck. always be mythic. And we patiently wait for next week to see what the bans are going to be. Oh, I forgot that MagicCon did a whole bunch of other things too. Oh no, what is that? Oh, surprise, surprise. They released a lot of information about Edge of Eternity. Shocklands are back in standard. Anyway,